Hey everyone, on our last episode I did say that we had recorded a 4-hour show that needed to be split up into two parts. Well, this is part 2 of that, episode number 104, where we discuss the best of 2017. Enjoy.
All right, let's get to our picks, bro. So we're gonna start with best of 2017, obviously, because nobody wants to hear the worst, even though it'll probably pop a lot more people. But so same format as last year, guys. So we're just gonna go around to just do our honorable mentions list, and then we'll go like 10, 10, 10, then 9, 9, 9, and then up until our number one pick of 2017. So I'll start with my honorable mentions. There was quite a few this year. I mean, there's not so much, stuff of quality, but stuff that I personally enjoy. Like it's gonna be like movies of all different genres. For example, Split is one of my honorable mentions. Lego Batman, obviously, I absolutely love that movie. Kong Skull Island for the reason that Draven gave earlier. It's a really fun popcorn movie. The Belko Experiment, I really like that movie. I think
Oh,
Draven
I loved
recommended
it.
that as well.
Yeah, I loved it.
Definitely one of my honorable mentions. Colossal, which I reviewed on Force Perspective a few.
I love that movie too.
Good movie as well. Guardians Volume 2, I had fun with. People hate Baywatch. I liked Baywatch. So I'm going to put it here because I had a lot of fun with that movie. And of course, with The Rock and Zac Efron have, great charisma back and forth together. So I'm putting on my honorable mentions. I don't care. Wonder Woman, obviously, is a great movie. Spider-Man Homecoming, War for the Planet of the Apes, Ingrid Goes West, which I reviewed a few episodes ago, was a great movie. I'll put Darkest Hour here, even though it's a by the numbers movie. I still, in the end, I enjoyed it. Lady Bird, phenomenal writing, like we talked about earlier, and great acting here as well. Tonya, really good movie. Blade Runner 2049, were probably the most gorgeous movie of 2017. Roger Deakins needs to get that Oscar. It is on my top 10. I don't know why I said it, but that's going to be in my top 10 for the year. Thor Ragnarok, I really liked. And I'll put Call Me By Your Name at the end. Even though I just saw it a few hours ago, but it's going to make my honorable mentions as well. So those are my picks for honorable mention this year.
All right, let me go next because I don't have that many. So I have Captain Fantastic. That came out last year, right?
Yeah, I think it's a 2016 movie.
Okay, so I saw it
But that
last
is a
year,
good
so
movie, though. That is a good movie.
That was a great movie. The Wall with John Cena. I really enjoyed that movie. There's a film called Radius, which it's one of those VOD movies that was really, really good. Essentially, it's about a guy that has this weird curse, I guess you could say, where if people get around him, they just fucking die, So the whole thing is he's trying to get rid of this curse, and the drama comes about how he's trying to avoid people from getting around him, and while at the same time looking for help. It's on Netflix right now. It's called Radius. I really enjoyed that film. There's another film called Super Dark Times, which was a great film. It's also on Netflix right now. Super Dark Times is very Amblin Entertainment-ist when it starts. Like, it's about these young kids kind of coming of age, and then what happens is that they kill a kid by accident, and it's how these three kids react to that murder in the middle of the movie. It's not really a spoiler because the film really takes off after the murder, and it gets really dark after that, and I always like that contrast of like going from like suburbia, Amblin Entertainment kind of films, and then all of a sudden just getting dark with it while you're still in suburbia, because obviously we think of suburbia as this safe place, you got the 4th of July with the fireworks and the hot dogs, and all of a sudden you got this situation where these three kids have to kind of hide the murder, and how all three of them react to that. And that was a very great film because all three of them react in different ways, and then it leads to the finale, which is very, very good. So that's called Super Dark Times. There's It, of course. Gerald's Game, which I had to bump off my top 10. Gerald's Game is a great film because for many years people said that film was unfilmable because it's off of Stephen King book. Right. And it's essentially about a woman who's kind of handcuffed to a bed. And it's all kind of, the book takes place of her kind of talking to herself because her husband dies of a heart attack, and she's kind of stuck there, and she could die of hunger, of thirst, and to top it off, there's like a rabid dog out there trying to get in.
Don't spoil it because I'm gonna watch it still. So.
Oh, okay. Oh, so you haven't read the book yet? Okay, I'm sorry.
Don't spoil anything.
Yeah, so it's a great film, the way it was filmed and all that. So I definitely recommend that one. And that's pretty much it. We'll get through the Balco Experiment. I really enjoyed. And there's a lot of them here and there that I'll kind of creep on if I think about them. But that's pretty much it for the honorable mentions.
I liked the Belko Experiment until the last 5 minutes. The last 5 minutes pissed me off.
It reminded me of Cube. Did you guys ever watch Cube?
No, that's another one that I know that's on my list. So don't ruin that ending. I've heard that's a split ending too.
Yeah.
But I just didn't like the ending. I think I talked about it on the show, and I just didn't like how basically whenever he asked them, "Oh, why did you do this?" They were just like, no reason. You don't need to know. I was really pissed off about that. That pissed me off.
There's also another film called The Dark Song, which is also on Netflix. It was like a low budget horror film where a mom wants to bring her son back from the dead, and the entire movie is about her. She gets a guy that knows how to do a seance. And what I like about this film is that the entire film is about them trying to do the seance and the consequences of the seance. Whereas other films, that would be like a 5-minute plot point, and then you move on to the next thing. This is the entire film, and it gets very technical about the things that you have to do in the seance. And I thought it was very engaging because we rarely see that. So I thought that was pretty cool as well. That's pretty much it. There's other ones here, but I really enjoyed it. Yeah. So that's pretty much it.
Adolfo, your honorable mentions for this year.
So I kind of got these kind of split up in different categories here. I have like the ones that almost made my top 10. I have the ones that I enjoyed but weren't gonna even be close to my top 10, and then I have ones that are like underrated that nobody talked about. That makes sense. Okay. So for the ones that almost made my top 10, Tonya. The Florida Project, which is the one Willem Dafoe's nominated for, which is a really good film, but it was really, as a father, is really hard to watch because it's just kids in danger the whole time. So I was just like, it was really tense for me pretty much the whole time. And then I'm the only defender of this movie, I know, but it was in my top 10 for most of the year until I watched another movie that's going to come up in my top 10 just yesterday, and it kicked it out. But Mother, I loved Mother. I loved Mother. I thought that movie was awesome. I loved that it pissed everybody off, and to me, I thought that was a great film. I get why people hate it. I'm not going to even try to defend why you should like it, but I really love that movie. But it just got kicked out just yesterday. Otherwise, it would have made it. Other movies that I thought were good but weren't close. The Disaster Artist, which I thought was very funny, but I don't think had the substance to make my top 10. Blade Runner, The Post, Darkest Hour, both again entertaining movies, not great, not good enough. Baby Driver, which I really loved, but just an honorable mention. Lego Batman, Guardians, and a couple of superhero movies, but I have 2 superhero movies in my top 10, and I'm going to explain why these didn't make it and some other ones did, so I'll save those for later. And then for movies that are just kind of underseen, I think, I have a couple here. Jim and Andy, it's this documentary on Netflix about Jim Carrey and his basically it's one of those documentaries about kind of like a making of, but not really, but it's like they're interviewing him now, reflecting on his time when he was on Man on the Moon and how he went method for Man on the Moon, and it just shows all these clips from the backstage footage from that, and then how he's reflecting on it now, and it's really fascinating. And I think Jim Carrey needs a hug, to be honest. I think he's not quite with it right now. It's really good.
And about that movie too, I just want to make a quick point. I love how both JR and King got a payday in that movie. So.
Yeah, I saw it. I wasn't really impressed by it. I thought it was like you said. I think Jim Carrey was hamming it up during his portion of the interview, and it almost it went from being the Jim and Andy thing to kind of almost being a biographical Jim Carrey thing at times. Right. So it was a little disjointed in that sense.
Actually, that's kind of what I liked about it, to be honest. That they kind of went away from it a little bit because I thought it kind of paralleled the two.
I could see how somebody would like the fact that it became more of a Jim Carrey autobiography, and then I don't know. I think it dragged a little bit in the middle because I felt that because it's not a short movie, it's almost like a 2-hour documentary, and it's like they were stretching for it because there's this scene where he's just in the makeup, becoming the alter ego of Andy Kaufman. I forget his name.
Tony Clifton.
Yeah, there you go. And it was like, oh my god, it's just fucking. It's literally like you're seeing the whole movie of like your crazy uncle, and you're just there watching it. And it's like, okay, we get it. And he's like, hey, well, come over here, girl, sit in my lap, girl. It's like, okay, dude, we get it. But there was some bright spots on it. Definitely, there was definitely some bright spots, and that's a good thing.
The other one I saw this year was the movie Lucky, which was Harry Dean Stanton's last movie. I saw it at an art house theater like in the middle of the year, so it was like a long time ago. And
I gotta write that one down. I've never seen that one.
Yeah, it's basically just about this dude in a small town. It's basically he's basically playing himself, but he's like in this really small town in like the Southwest. I don't know exactly where, and he's just this fucking cranky old man, and it's just kind of like his life in like a couple of days. But it's like it really kind of goes, like it's really kind of the perfect last film for a Harry Dean Stanton to make. Another one I would say I really enjoyed was this French movie called Raw, which is
that's
which
a
is
good pick.
the cannibal.
I watched that one for sure.
Yeah, the cannibal movie, which was really fucking unnerving, but really good. It had a really good story. It had a really good soundtrack. I just really enjoyed that one. It's not for the squeamish. I will give you that.
Yeah.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
This one I'm a little conflicted on because I don't know if I love it, but I appreciated it. It was kind of a little weird, but I think it should be watched even if you don't like it. Is A Ghost Story, which is the basically not Joaquin Phoenix.
Casey Affleck.
Casey Affleck in a sheet like the whole time, and it's kind of like this existential kind of. And I'm gonna warn people: there's long stretches of time where like nothing fucking happens, but it's still kind of fascinating to watch.
Very artsy.
Very art.
Very art house.
Very art house kind of movie, but I think people should watch it. And The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which is the Yorgos Lanthimos
I've been meaning to
movie.
see that.
That's a fucked up movie.
That's in my top 10, man.
I
love that movie.
It's a fucked up movie. And like it doesn't really make sense until you find out what it's based on. It's based on a mythology, like a Greek mythology or something. And once you read, you don't have to read the whole mythology, but once you read what it's actually based on, then the movie makes a whole lot more sense. And it's really fucked up and dark, and I really kind of enjoyed it. And this is not really underseen, but I think it was underappreciated. I'm just going to throw a little love for Annabelle Creation, which I thought was a big improvement from the first one. And I actually kind of dug it, so I'm just throwing that out there. It's not great art.
Origin of Evil?
Well, but that was last year, though.
Oh, what?
Yeah, Annabelle Creation was not, I'm not going to say it's great art, but it was such an improvement over the original movie that, and I enjoyed it just as a horror movie, which is a solid horror movie, so... Yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Awesome, guys. Okay, so let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's do our best top 10 2017. And I'm going to start with my personal top 10, and that is Coco. We kind of discussed this a little briefly earlier in the show. Just absolutely fantastic. Not a dry eye in the house in my screening, especially my family members who were with me. We couldn't hold it anymore. It's just it hits you on every emotional and every possible emotional level. And I mean, this is just Pixar being Pixar to me at this point. They just knocked a home run here out of the park, and that's my top 10. I mean, and it's very well deserved. It's Coco, my top 10, my number 10, I should say.
All right, so it's my turn, right? We're going in a circle.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 10 was a movie called Better Watch Out. I don't know if you guys saw this. I don't think it's available on VOD, but they haven't put it on the streaming services yet. Better Watch Out is a Christmas movie, and it's a horror movie, and it's about this babysitter who's taking care of this kid. And I'm not gonna spoil it because part of the charm of this film is the pretty goddamn clever twist that this movie takes. So as they're both sitting there, there's a home invasion in progress to his house, to the the babysitter and the kid. There's a home invasion happening, and I'm gonna shut up right there because what happens when the invader goes in, it totally throws everything out of whack. I thought it was very original, and it's in my top 10 for that reason. Just a great fucking film. I don't know if you guys have heard about this one.
I've heard of it, but I haven't gotten around to seeing it.
Whenever you guys get a chance, watch it because it's a great. It really turns that whole genre up on its head, and it has a great little twist right there. So that's my number 10.
Is it on demand somewhere?
Is it what?
Is it on demand? Is it streaming somewhere?
Yes, it is. It's already out. It came out about October last year.
Okay.
So it's already out there.
Okay, cool. My number 10, this is where I was talking about earlier about the superhero movies. So my number 10 spot is my designated blockbuster / superhero spot. And I was trying to figure out between the three kind of superhero. There's another superhero movie coming up later, but I don't really count it as a superhero movie. You probably know which one that is. But these three movies I thought were all very good. I couldn't really decide which one to put in here. I'm not putting all three in, but so the three movies I was considering were Thor, Ragnarok, SpiderMan Homecoming, and Wonder Woman. And I think they're all good in their own unique way. And I couldn't really decide which one I wanted in my top 10. So I ultimately just went with Wonder Woman, not because it's better than the other two, because I actually think the other two are probably a little bit better, but because it just had a bigger cultural impact than the other ones. Like, I think it's a movie that people are going to talk about longer than the other two movies are, just because it was such a huge deal this year. And I enjoyed it. The third act is not good, but I enjoyed it enough that I think it's just it was kind of like a, because you could, for like the whole summer you couldn't go anywhere without hearing people talking about Wonder Woman, and it was such an important film as far like it did for like women what like Black Panther's doing it for African Americans now. So like I think it was just an important kind of pop culture moment. That's why it gets the edge over Thor and Spider-Man.
Right.
Yeah, I liked that. I thought Gal Gadot was really charismatic in it, even though a lot of critics said she was the weakest part. I don't understand that because I thought she really.
Yeah, I don't get that at all.
And then also Chris Pine was phenomenal in it, and sometimes when that movie had a lot of heart into it, you could tell the filmmaker she really wanted to make a great movie, but also tell a good story. It wasn't just your typical like popcorn flick. And so yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed it. Yeah. Now Spider-Man Homecoming. It's not as good as it was the first time, and that's one of those films that I've revisited about 3 times, and it gets less and less with me every time. Like that scene with Michael Keaton and Spider-Man in the car where they get, that's a phenomenal fucking scene. Like I always love that scene because to me this is what I love about Spider-Man Homecoming in that scene. There's no turning back from that scene. If you notice, after that scene, it's all balls to the wall action. And they already know who each other is, and there ain't no going back from that. And I thought from a storyline perspective and from a script writing point of view, I thought that was pretty good because usually these kind of films, you don't really get the big reveal into the end as far as if the villain even knows who the superhero is. But here it was like, okay, this is it. I'm calling you out. And from here on in, we're enemies. And that scene in the car with Michael Keaton when he's talking shit to him, I was phenomenal. And the reaction of Peter Parker, like holy shit, because he's reacting like a kid would react, not like a superhero, that knows what's going on. Like for that moment, he became Peter Parker, the nerd. He wasn't Spider-Man. He was being intimidated by this guy who he now knows is the Vulture. So that was a great scene. I really like it. But the film itself. It could be very by the numbers at times, and I think it's going to be one of those films that I don't know if it's going to age well or not, because to me, after all the smoke clear and everything, Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi is still the best Spider-Man film.
Oh, to me too. That is the best Spider-Man film to me as well.
Yeah.
I have only actually seen Homecoming once since it's been out. So I don't have that experience of seeing it like more than once and judging it more than on that. But I will say that like that scene is probably one of the best scenes of the year. And like what I do love about it is not just that he says that we're enemies. And correct me if I'm wrong. I thought what he said was, you got a chance to like turn this around, and I'll leave you alone. And then at that point, Peter has to decide if he's gonna like go through with it or not. And then he does, obviously, and then like has the big heroic moment. But that like threat of like, don't fuck with me, kid. I'll leave you alone, but this is your one chance, and if you do, I'm gonna fucking kill you. So like, and I love that. Obviously, he didn't drop as many F-bombs, but I love that scene. Michael Keaton was so menacing in that movie, and I really enjoyed that film.
But I'm sorry to interrupt you, but it also never came. We've never really seen that in the MCU. Even when the Ironmonger and Iron Man fought in the first one, like they revealed each other while they were already in battle. Like that's what I like about this particular film is that I don't think we've ever seen the revelation of two arch nemesis in that situation, and it was just perfect. And it was like you said, Michael Keaton had that father figure too, which was so great. Like he was almost talking down to Peter Parker, like, just chill the fuck out and let me do what I do. And just, or if not, and this is the subtlety of it, and that's why you dropped F-bomb, because essentially he was dropping F-bombs, but it was very subtle. It was like, you're gonna get hurt, kid, and you're gonna get killed if you continue fucking with me. And the whole time he's going to the fucking prom with his daughter, bro. So that makes it even more wackier. But again, if you're a bad writer, it's almost like a trap, because at that point, how do you continue the film when it's already out there? And this particular writer didn't do that. It's like from that point forward, they go into the third act, and it's all just them battling each other at that point. There wasn't no going back to high school and this. No, and that would have really bothered me if all of a sudden they have this great scene and then they go back to the plot of the film, like they're still trying to discover each other, which is a possible error in other lesser well-written films. So yeah, so I really that scene really stood with me for that reason.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it again to see how the rest of it holds up. But I will say that it kind of saved the franchise from those two bad Andrew Garfield movies, which I didn't like. So it was the best. It was the best Spider-Man movie since Spider-Man 2. So I really enjoyed it.
There you go.
There's only one Alfred Molina, man. He was very charismatic.
Fantastic in that movie.
Oh, I love that guy.
All right, so you're number 9.
All right, moving on to number 9. Number 9 is The Shape of Water for me. We talked about it. We reviewed the film earlier in the episode. Really can't add much more to it. I mean, Guillermo del Toro, this is his labor of love, and he literally brought a fairy tale to life on the big screen. And the moment I had watching this movie is one that I'm always going to remember, because you don't get those feelings a lot when you watch movies. So, and when you do, it's something special. So for those reasons, and for all the reasons we outlined earlier, my number 9 is The Shape of Water.
Okay. My number 9 is a little known film called Brawl in South Block 99. Did you guys catch this one?
Oh, I've been wanting to watch that one. I've heard it's good.
This is we've all wanted crazy clay pigeons fucking Vince Vaughn back for a while now. Well, we got him in this film. Essentially, this is a film that's it's grounded in a lot of ways, but it's also very cartoony in a lot of other ways. It's like a big video game where Vince Vaughn, who got very yoked up for this film, he's a big dude, man. He has to work his way throughout all these fucking prison blocks and just beat motherfuckers up and just get to a destination. And it's pretty good. It's from the same filmmaker that did Bone Tomahawk, which was one of my favorites from a few years ago. And so it's very slow burning in the beginning, but it really picks up, and it just becomes a great movie, man. Great action scenes, and it's just Vince Vaughn. He has a big bald head with a big cross tattoo in the back of his head, and he's just fucking taking no prisoners, and it was just a great movie. So Brawl in South Block 99 is my number 9. That was a great film.
Yeah, I really wanted to see that. I saw a trailer for it. It really reminded me of The Raid, but in prison.
Yes, it is very much like The Raid, and then the action scenes are great because it's like realistic fighting. It ain't that actiony hero fighting, so you see a lot of like grunting, but the editing is phenomenal. Just a lot of the great action sequences that happen as he's trying to work his way through this cell block are pretty good. So yeah, and then again, we get a different Vince Vaughn that we haven't gotten in years. We were reminded that this guy could, as a dramatic actor, he's pretty good instead of always being like the wacky comedic guy. Yeah. So that was pretty good. Yeah. So Brawl in South Block 99. So Adolfo's number 9.
My number 9 is The Big Sick. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it was one of the I think it's this year's feel good movie. It's the one that you go. It's a good date movie. It's a good comedy. It's a movie that when you walk out of it, you feel happy and you get it's a happy ending and you feel it's just good. I thought Kumail Nanjiani was really fun to watch. I think he was. I've only ever seen him on that HBO show. What is it called? Silicon Valley. Which is, he's funny on that show, but he's a side character. But as I'm not saying he's a leading man in the sense of a Brad Pitt or anything, but as a comedic leading man, I think he did quite well. I thought his relationship that he had with Holly Hunter and Ray Romano, who, by the way, Ray Romano, good acting job in this film. I really enjoyed him in this film. I thought their relationship was really good, and I just, it was just. it was just one of the movies that I just walked out at the end of the movie, and I walked out of the movie theater. I just felt happy, and you don't get a lot of those anymore, you know. So it's a good
Yeah.
comedy, a good date movie, good romantic. This is like what romantic comedy should be, not like the formulaic crap that you see like
Right.
every time. Where like halfway through the movie, the couple breaks up over something that can be explained in 2 seconds if they just fucking stopped and listened to each other. Like and then they have a stupid reason to break up, and then they come back together. Like this like is like, I mean, obviously it was based on a true story, so that has some originality to it, but that's the kind of romantic comedy that people should be making, is The Big Sick.
And where it connected with me was in the culture aspect of it, because even with my culture, I'll tell you this, a lot of my family members are still very ignorant. There's a lot of girls that I can't bring home to mom, if you know what I'm saying, because of certain stereotypes, and
Right.
so that was part of the film that connected with me, and like Adolfo said, this is a great film. It has a great, very happy ending, but there's also a great arc to it, because the characters are different at the end than they were in the beginning. And they're also based in reality, because the guy, he's kind of an asshole in a lot of this movie, man. And so you kind of see that, and so no, I really like this movie a lot.
Yeah, definitely. We'll be revisiting Big Sick in a little bit during this
Okay.
topic, but
Cool.
But my number 8 is It. I gushed about this movie when Adolfo and I reviewed it a few episodes ago. It's one of those adaptations of Stephen King. I don't know if it's more so because the Dark Tower was so bad, but I mean,
We'll get to Dark Tower later.
Yeah, we'll get to Dark Tower later. But seeing a Stephen King adaptation get it right, for the first time in a while, was very refreshing to me. And it was not only that, but the kids were amazing here. All the kids in this movie were really awesome. And going against Bill Skarsgård's Pennywise, I mean that's a match made in heaven, right? Or a match made in hell, depending on who you ask.
That was good
But
casting. That was good casting.
excellent casting. I mean, they had excellent chemistry together. And then the story and I love how they were able to essentially condense that first half of the book so well and make it flow so nicely. I mean, I had a great time watching this, never a dull moment. And I've rewatched it, I think, 3 times since then. And I have as much fun, each of those times as the preceding time. So this is one of those movies that I'm just going to watch for years now. And that's my number 8. It.
I think
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think, interestingly enough, it's a very loose adaptation of the book. I think the miniseries is a closer one, even though that also has its challenges. But there's a scene that stands out to me that I thought was pretty good. When Pennywise is talking to Georgie, and he's trying to kind of charm him into bringing getting closer. But there's a point in that scene where the demon kind of gets stuck. You remember that scene? And for a few seconds he freezes.
Yes.
That's so fucking scary to me,
Yes.
because it's almost like the demon itself was trying to play this role of the clown. Of course, that's just a facade.
Yeah.
But he loses his train of thought and he just freezes, and he looks so fucking menacing and so scary. And then he comes back, and then also Skarsgård's voice was perfect, because he has kind of like a wimpy voice, which really kind of
Georgie.
And I don't think that's his real voice, but I don't think he was.
I think
So
it's more of a manly voice.
So the thing is, I thought it worked perfectly. I mean, I didn't think they could replace the Alpha Team Curry as much as, but they did a good job. They certainly got close, so that was good. Now I was very sad that they did replace, because the miniseries has a great scare scene with the book when they're going back to the books, and then Pennywise is there with the balloons, and then he comes out. They replaced that with the film, where they're going through the films, right, in the garage.
Yeah.
That was a great theatrical experience. That scare.
That was a good scare. That was a really good scare. Like, everyone in my theater flipped the fuck out when that
was
scare
a
happened.
great scare, yeah.
That was a really decent scare.
Adolfo, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, so like I'm a little conflicted on the original miniseries. I really liked the original miniseries, but I actually enjoyed this movie better. I think let me preface this by saying, as great as Bill Skarsgård is, Tim Curry's performance is always going to be like one of the greatest performances as far as like this goes, right? But I like this film better because it only focuses on the early part. It doesn't focus on the adult part yet, and the adult part will get its own movie. I think and I haven't read the book, but I know that it's separated into different timelines.
Every 27 years, yeah.
Yeah, so like I know that the next chapter is about like one's about the kids and then one's about them growing up. So like I didn't when I watched the miniseries, like I think the miniseries just is a little too long by trying to like cram both storylines in at the same time. Whereas I kind of appreciate that this series is going to kind of split them off into their own movies. So I really do enjoy that. I think it's a really slick production and it looks really good, and Bill Skarsgård is fantastic. I think the kids are all better actors than the kids in the original series too. I got to be honest. Especially Finn Wolfhard, he was fucking hilarious.
Finn Wolfhard with the most alpha name in Hollywood right now.
Oh, the kid from
The only thing about this version as opposed to the miniseries was that this version, Pennywise is more of a monster, whereas one of the things that made the miniseries kind of creepy was that, if you guys remember, Pennywise would actually fuck with these guys by talking to them and fucking with their head, and it was more of a conversation thing, and it was more like he would creep into your brain, whereas this film is just him. He's just a monster, right? He just comes out.
That's true. It's a little more subtle in the
yeah, and that was the only thing that was missing. But I love this film, man. It was a great fucking film, and I'm glad that it kind of got the buzz that it got, and it was kind of a little bit of a phenomenon there for a while, because we need more films like these.
Well,
I like what
it is the highest grossing horror movie of all time. Like I think it beat The Exorcist. It has it is the highest grossing horror movie.
Yeah.
So
and they also did the right thing in that I believe they filmed all the scenes with the kids already, just so they don't grow up, and when they film the adults part. So that's already in the can. So now they're gonna film the adults part. And I guess that comes out maybe next year.
Yes, it's 2019, and they already cast Jessica Chastain as Beverly.
I thought that was a rumor. I didn't think that was.
No, that was confirmed a couple days ago.
Yeah, it was confirmed, and it would, because she has a history with that filmmaker. They've worked together in the past, so that was already the scuttlebutt even way before. So yeah, she's gonna get to be in a genre film, so that's good.
There's one more thing. So I will agree with you, that scene in the original series where he comes out. What is it? They're looking like an old picture, right? And he comes out and he's like, "I will eat your souls and I will kill everybody." Yeah. Like, that's a great scene. But like the scare in this one, I think, is really good too. I don't know. I still think I prefer this one over the original, but I do prefer Tim Curry over Bill Skarsgård in general. I don't know. It's kind of hard. They both have their own virtues.
The only thing about the original is that it's dated as hell, though. It looks so cheap,
It does look really cheap. It does, and it looks like a made-for-TV movie. And it has those built-in commercial breaks, Was
that Mick Garris? I think Mick Garris did all those Stephen King films. It might have been Mick Garris. I forget who did that one, but yeah. No, that was the guy that did Halloween 2. Anyways, yeah. So that it does look very dated.
Yeah, but anyway, that's a solid pick. It's not in my. It's an honorable mention for me.
All right, so my number. We're at number 7, right?
Number 8.
My number 8 would be Coco. Same like you said. I mean, it hit all the bright spots again. Seeing, you had Cantinflas right there, bro. If that didn't pop,
didn't pop you, bro, then you're not Hispanic. That's all I have to say.
And so El Santo was there. I mean, just all the little things like that. But even if you're not familiar with that culture, just the film was so well written and it hit all the right spots, and it's Pixar being Pixar. So that's my number 8 right there.
All right, my number 8. It's my second superhero movie, but again, I don't consider it a superhero movie. It is Logan. Logan, I think, is one of the best films of the year, obviously, but I think the reason I don't think it's a superhero movie is because I think it exceeds the limitations of the genre and does its own fucking thing. It's basically a Western. It's basically a Western. I mean, they fucking call out the movie Shane in it how many times, and it's I love the whole concept of a flawed, quote unquote bad man trying to be a good man at the end, and there's some aspects that are a little cheesy, like at the end when he gets all roided up and and then goes on the killing spree, but but it's such a fantastic. I think it's Hugh Jackman's best performance pretty much ever. I know that they don't recognize these kind of things, but I almost wish he would have gotten a nomination for this role as well as Patrick Stewart. But I think it just kind of transcends all the superhero cliches, and I'm so glad it got a writing nomination because it deserved it. This movie, I've seen it twice since it came out, and it's I cannot love this movie anymore.
Did you see it in black and white?
No, because I don't like that because it wasn't filmed in black and white. So if it's not filmed in black and white, just turning the color off doesn't work for me.
That's only work with The Mist. The Mist is a completely different movie in black and white because of the monsters, and it's like a little more real and stuff because just the way. But they've tried that gimmick. I think they also did it with Mad Max, the Fury Road, and they did it with Logan. And it doesn't. It's just a gimmick. I mean, if there's no artistic reason for you to do it, don't do it. You know, black and white really works when you have almost a kind of like The Mist. The Mist works perfectly because they had the story to make it work. But other than that, I've never seen it work, and it's just nuisance of.
I mean, it's not as bad as this, but it's kind of like colorizing a black and white movie, right? Like it wasn't shot.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Exactly.
I mean, it's not as bad because when you see colorized movies, they look fucking horrendous. But like, it wasn't shot that way. It wasn't meant to be shot that way. It wasn't meant to be seen that way. So like. To me, it is a gimmick, right? So that's why I'm not gonna watch. That's why I'm not gonna watch it. But just by itself as its own film, like in color, it was an amazing like experience. I really love that film. That's my number 8.
Well,
There's a film here that's not coming up at all, and I'm gonna wait for the list to be over. That's really surprising because it's not in my top 10, but it's got a lot of love, and I'll tease it like that. I'll say it if it doesn't come up with you guys. But there's a film that was pretty goddamn good, and they didn't get no love from any of us. But keep on going.
Oh, I'm gonna talk about Logan for a little bit right now because that's my number 7. That's again, this is one of those movies that you see that ending, and you kind of go back in your head everything that you've just seen the last 2 hours of this movie, and you have that ending, that final shot of the grave, and it's like, fuck, man. And then you have the Johnny Cash song playing during the credits. Like, holy shit. Like, this is one of those, kind of like Coco in a way, where you start getting the feels at that point. It's like, holy fucking shit.
My brother got the feels, brother. He didn't even fight it. He was balling right next to me at the theater. I thought, oh, well, fuck it. I mean, it worked, you know?
It fucking worked, man. I mean, and yes, this is probably the best thing Hugh Jackman's ever done. And then Patrick Stewart was robbed of a Best Supporting Actor nomination this year. But I mean, the story was great. The actors were great. And again, like Adolfo said, this is one of those movies that just transcends its comic book origin, its comic book genre role, and it becomes this just emotional, gripping, like roller coaster drama. And I just had a ball with this movie. Definitely one of the best of the year. That's my number 7, Logan.
Go ahead.
And I was gonna say, not for nothing, but Hugh Jackman just took a shit on whatever actor is gonna replace him for Wolverine next time. Because it's like, top that motherfucker. You know what I mean? Because like, first of all, not only he's been playing the part for like 15, 16, 17 years or something like that, but like then he puts in that final performance. Like, no, whatever unlucky bastard is cast as Wolverine next, because you know they're gonna do another Wolverine movie at some point. Like, he's fucking screwed. There's no way anyone's gonna live up to that.
Bro, I'm gonna lose my shit if he shows up in Infinity War, bro. Like, legit. I'll fucking lose my mind.
It would have been out by now. But the thing is, I think they still have the '90s one coming out, right? Where it was supposed to, you know. Yeah, but he technically wouldn't be in it because they actually find him. I guess what would be 1999. So they could do a whole 90s X-Men film without him in it. Right. I guess the last shot would be the beginning of X-Men 1, which is that was the gimmick they were trying to do a couple years ago. I don't know. Bryan Singer has so much shit that he might not even get to make any movie again with the way things are going.
Okay, I think he's off that. I think he's off the next X-Men movie. I don't think he's on it anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that producer's also a scumbag. So who knows?
Don't fuck little boys, and shit won't happen to you.
But no, well, okay, well, I'll say it right now. I'll just talk about it, then I'll just skip it. Logan was my number 2 of the year, because it's just everything you guys just said, but there was also so much subtlety in that film, like the guilt that Logan's carrying with him, because it's implied that he pretty much he pretty much killed all the other X-Men, right? No. What happened was that the thing happened, the apocalypse or whatever, no pun intended, but he survived because of his capabilities. So he has this like survivor's guilt that he's carrying with him throughout the entire movie. And I love all the things that they throw at you, but you have to kind of connect to you wonder what the fuck happened. Like, there's so many things that are just implied, you know, and Professor X, like his whole, like, it was so sad when he died. They hit you with that fucking bomb. And then at the end, Logan finally dies. but even in dying, there's a sense of closure with him. Like it's almost like he's ready for it. I mean, this fucking guy's been alive for 100 years almost, maybe even longer. So just a great film. And what I like, it has a villain. It has that one guy from Narcos, but it wasn't really about him. So even though the villain was kind of on the weak side, it was mostly about Logan. I thought the kids were okay. They had some charm to them. And so yeah, man, everything about it, like you said, it was an old western. It was, and that's what they did.
It's kind of, and I don't want to like get too like. I'm gonna bust out the film nerd in here a little bit, but it's almost like if John Ford were alive and made a superhero movie, that's what he would make.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's like it's kind of like The Searchers, and it's kind of like those kind of movies, those old westerns that he used to make, where with like a kind of a flawed main character, like either seeking revenge or seeking redemption, things like that. So that's kind of what I was thinking about too when I watched the movie.
And also just the tone of the movie. It's so depressing. I mean, and I do like the fact that once the film kind of ends, there's a little more light in the film when the kids, because the kids are going to be the next generation, and the film, it gets a little brighter towards the end, even with the cinematography, because I know they're in the forest and there's more green. But before that, it's just so depressing and everybody's so isolated. It just, these are the kind of films that hit the right tones without saying much on the script, and those are the kind of films that I like, because it forces you to kind of become part of the film as you're trying to connect everything yourself. So no, this is my number 2, and it was a great film, and like you said, it should have been recognized more.
Definitely.
And I will say this: I think with the right kind of payday, they will bring him back. They will bring Hugh Jackman back to another.
Money talks, my friends.
Well,
That's
I mean,
right.
As far as like Infinity War goes, I think as much as like that I would love to see that, and we even talked about it when we were talking about the Disney Fox thing. I don't think the deal's completed, so they might not have the ability to do it yet. Like I think there's still like a lot of corporate red tape that they have to cut through before they can. I mean, the movie's only 3 months away to like film like a fucking teaser or something like at this stage in the game. It's still possible, but it's that would be. I mean, because they refilmed that fucking. Kevin Spacey movie in like 3 weeks, right? So it's possible. It's not impossible, but like
well, they could bring him in part 2. So,
they could. So it's not impossible to like just film one scene as like an end credit scene or something. But at this point, I think they still haven't like dotted the I's and crossed the T's on that Disney Fox thing yet for that to happen yet.
And my only issue with that, and this is going to be the whole filmmaker snobby issue, is that at the end of the day, unfortunately, he doesn't fit in that story. So that would be 100% fan service.
Oh, it absolutely would.
And I don't know if the Vince not Russo brothers would fucking want to go for that shit. You know what I'm saying? So no. Me, if I was in charge of that, I wouldn't put him. Even if I could, I wouldn't, because where do you put him? What are you gonna do? Like, he's just gonna be at a restaurant and there's fucking get the big pop. It would feel too forced to put him in that movie.
I
like if he's just gonna roll up with his fucking claws and start going off on Thanos, like just out of nowhere.
No, I don't. But that's the thing. I don't think they'd put him in the movie. Like I think it'd be like an end credit scene. Like I think that would just be like a tease. Like, oh, look who's here. Part 2 coming next year. You know what I mean? Like that's what I would. I don't think it would be like in the main part of the movie. It would definitely be after the credits.
They'll be burying Tony Stark, and they'll be like, hey,
yeah.
They'll be like, hey, Bub, you need some help. And
yeah,
be
exactly.
The big end right. So,
right, but so that's your number 2. So what's your number 7 then, Draven?
Okay, my number 7 is a little movie called Sweet Virginia, which again, it got a limited release by IFC Films, and it stars John Bernthal, and it stars a guy called Christopher Abbott. Do you guys know who he's got some roles under his belt? Let's see here. He's an up and coming guy. He came out in It Comes at Night. He's been in Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. He's kind of a character actor. He was in A Most Violent Year. But this is one of the things that I like about these independent films is that they're so tiny in scope, where it's like you're just literally following one character. So this here, John Bernthal, he's a retired like a rodeo clown, like a one of those guys that a rodeo guy, and he goes up to Alaska and he just wants to be alone. But Christopher Abbott comes in. His name's Elwood, and he's a serial killer. So he's kind of just passing. It's one of those films where you have the hero, again, very much a Western. You have a hero in John Bernthal, whose name is Sam, who just wants to live by himself in peace. And you have a crazy maniac who comes and disrupts the whole town. And the town comes to John Bernthal to strap on the old holster one last time and take out Elwood. Very traditional Western. So, but it's just great because John Bernthal is very charismatic and he's a good actor and he's getting better. By the way, I noticed that every film he does, he's becoming a more confident actor. And it was one of those films that really left an impression on me. And the ending's very good. So yeah, Sweet Virginia. It's my number 7. I really, really enjoyed that film. It was just fucking great. And that one it should be coming up on Netflix. All these films like Better Watch Out and Sweet Virginia, because they're independent films, sooner or later they're gonna end up on Netflix anyway. So, that's pretty much where they make most of their money. Or Amazon Prime or whatever.
That one I admit I've never heard of.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Adolfo, you're number 7.
My number 7 is Call Me by Your Name.
Nice.
I said earlier, it does have the issue of like the first 30 to 45 minutes is just really slow and it takes its time. But then after that, when the love story finally happens, then it starts to build up and it starts to grab your interest, and like everything from that point on is very good. The acting's very good, and especially like we talked about, that Michael Stuhlbarg speech is fucking amazing, and that last shot is incredible. Like everything from that point on I totally understand why it's getting all the praise it's getting. And we talked about it already, so I'm not going to say much more. But yeah, number 7, Call Me by Your Name.
Awesome. It's funny, like, you kept telling me in the lead up to me seeing this movie that, just remember peaches, right? Remember peaches. So the whole time I'm watching this movie, I'm thinking to myself, all I'm thinking of is fucking Nick Cage in Face Off saying peach. Peach for hours. That's all I kept thinking about, bro.
Oh, let me add an addendum there. Speaking of Nick Cage, he did a great movie called Mom and Dad.
Oh, I've heard of that. I really want to watch
it. I watched it a couple weeks ago. The quick plot is that essentially what happens is that there's this weird, I guess you could say virus or whatever, where the parents want to kill their own kids, and that's pretty much the plot of the movie there, and from there shenanigans ensue. But you get Nicolas Cage because he's the dad, so you could just imagine crazy Nicolas Cage trying to kill his own son. So we get wacky Nicolas Cage, but it's a pretty goddamn good film. I really had a good time watching it.
I've heard that they take full advantage of the crazy Nick Cage stuff. I'm glad. Because a lot of times he does the crazy stuff, and you're like, why is he doing that in this movie?
Yeah.
But apparently in this movie, they are taking it, they're using it as a positive.
Yeah, because eventually it turns into Home Alone, but with the parents trying to get in to knock off the kids. So it's a great movie. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. So moving on to number 6. My number 6 is Dunkirk. I believe we reviewed this movie a few episodes ago as well. It's Christopher Nolan, and the way this film is structured. Like at first, I remember talking about how it was very confusing, how the story was being structured. But when you finally understand it, it makes everything just kind of fall into place and make sense. And it's just a really unique way to tell this particular story, which has been told many times and in many books as well, about the Battle of Dunkirk and the evacuation of Dunkirk.
Well, it's only been told once in the 50s. I only know of one movie that covers that.
I'm always talking about just in general, like not just movies, but like in books. There's plenty of books covering Dunkirk. And it's even talked about in Darkest Hour. There's a good chunk of the movie about Dunkirk. But again, great structure of the story. Great film editing, great sound design. It's going to win all those technical awards like we talked about earlier. And it's an experience. It's an experience that I don't think home media, Blu-ray, will be able to capture unless you have the right capabilities. Like this is a movie that's meant for the theater.
That's right. Now let me say this about Dunkirk and why Chris Nolan's he was a genius when it came to this film. If you notice the film, there's not a lot going on throughout the entire film. Nothing really happens. And when you want to tackle the story of Dunkirk, the real story, essentially it's a bunch of locals helping out some of the troops get out of Dunkirk. That's all that happens. And when I first heard that he was going to make this film, like, how the fuck is he going to keep us captivated for an hour and 30 minutes? Like, thinking of that, man, it was probably like 2 hours. And sure enough, he pulled it off, man, because the way he filmed it with the 3 stories going on and the tension. And I thought Tom Hardy did a great job with like almost no lines, man. I thought the ending is very tragic.
And we didn't
ending
know
for
it was
his
him till the end either, so that was awesome.
Yeah, and then because he essentially sacrifices himself for just pretty much everybody else.
Yeah.
So he kind of becomes the real hero of the movie at the end. And I thought he did a pretty good job too. I really like that movie. I was really surprised by it. One of the biggest criticisms that it gets is that there's no character development in that movie, and that there's really no actual characters in that movie. But I think it's not about the characters. I think it's about the situation and everybody coming together and working as a community and helping out the troops get out. That's what I think the actual message is. But I do know one of its knocks is that there's no characters in the movie. That's pretty much it. And so, take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I like Dunkirk. It was a good film.
Yeah, Dunkirk, amazing. Definitely check that out, everybody. But what's your number 6, Draven?
Okay, my number 6 is I, Tonya. I really love that movie a lot. I thought it reminded me of Goodfellas a lot. That's a good
comparison.
The way Craig Gillespie structured the film. I really like the performances. One of the reasons why it really connected with me too, and I don't know, because me and Adolfo are the same age. I remember this story vividly. It was a big deal at that time when it was happening, the whole Tonya Harding thing. And so to see a film capture that was pretty cool, and it also really revealed how much of a victim Tonya Harding was as a person. She really got manipulated. She's kind of dingy in a lot of ways too, because she allowed herself. But still, you feel bad for her because her whole career was ruined, and she was never able to skate professionally again. And it's a really tragic story of a person who's kind of gullible, being manipulated by everybody around her. As her star is rising. So I thought that was a great movie.
Yeah, we talked about this in the last episode when we did I, Tonya. The thing that I liked the most about it, I think Adolfo agreed with me, was the fact that the way the movie's structured and the story structured, it leaves the audience in that driver's seat as to who you're going to believe. Do you believe Jeff or do you believe Tonya? And they both have credibility issues. So it's literally, it's up to like who you tend to, do you want to believe the girl? Do you want to believe the guy? Because they're both fucking liars. But it's on you to who you want to believe. And it doesn't it kind of more sides with Tonya in a way.
I think it definitely sides with her. I think that's it wants you to side with her.
And I also like
it still kind of leads it to you though.
Not only does it have a Goodfellas vibe to it, it also has like a Coen Brothers vibe to it, where all these fucking movies with the Coen Brothers, where all these dumbasses always fucking else and make it worse and worse and worse, and it's a big old calamity. And so no, definitely it had a lot of influences, and this guy Craig Gillespie made it his own, and I'm really glad it's getting the praise that it's getting, because these are the kind of films that if you don't get the right momentum, it'll go under the radar, man, and you just never hear about them. So the fact that it got some good press, and Sebastian Stan really kind of came into his own, and it has the Alpha. We always pop when Bobby Cannavale comes up in any.
Oh, I love Bobby Cannavale. I love that whole thing about how he would like pop the tires on people's cars.
So we always pop for that guy. But I know I Tonya my number 6.
So real quick on I, Tonya, I will say, you mentioned that, we were both the same age around that time that was happening. And one thing that I did appreciate about this movie was that, I thought I knew what the story was just based on, because I had a clear, oh, yeah, Tonya Harding fucked up Kenny Carrigan and whatever. But then I watched this movie and wait, I don't remember any of this. This is new information to me because I thought I knew it this whole time, and I really actually didn't know the whole story, which was something I thought was really, I don't know what the word is, but it just kind of really enlightening. Even though maybe some of the truth may have been, favored. Maybe Tonya when she was, because these are based on interviews, right? Maybe when she was telling her story, she was, giving certain things to make herself look flattering. Obviously, anybody would, right? But it's still kind of, there's a lot of stuff. I was I didn't actually know that. That's actually really interesting. And the other thing I want to mention about that was, Margot Robbie, she's a fucking force now. Because she produced this film. She's the main actress in it. She got nominated for an Oscar. She was in a big hit movie in Suicide Squad. She's fucking arrived, man. This is there's no stopping her now.
Right, and I'm glad that she chose like these kind of roles because she's got all kinds of like popcorn flicks thrown at her, and she decided to do films like this to kind of enhance her her artistic stature, I guess, with people like us, So I'm glad she chose this. So yeah, no, it was a great film.
Okay.
Definitely.
So we're on 6.
Yes.
Okay, so I fucked up. When we did number 9, I skipped number 9, went to my number 8, and I just realized we're on 6. And it says "Call Me by Your Name," which we already did. So this is actually my number 9 that I didn't talk about earlier because I just accidentally skipped it, and that is Lady Bird, which we talked about earlier. I'm not really going to add much more than what I said earlier. But it's actually my number 9, not my number 6. I just fucked up the order. Sorry.
That's all right. So then we're just gonna move everything else up a number.
Yeah. So
right?
So Big 6 is 8, and Logan is 7, and Call Me by Your Name is 6. I just forgot that I just completely fucking skipped over number 9. So there you go.
Gotcha. But now we're into our top 5. So my number 5 of the year is The Big Sick. We reviewed this a couple of shows ago as well, and then you talked about it earlier as your number 8. It was number 9. Number 8 now. It's one of those really easy watch comedies, I think, like romantic comedies. It's a really good sit through. Kumail Nanjiani is amazing here. He's really good performance as the lead. I popped for fucking Ray Romano, right? And I gushed over that guy when we did the initial review because I'm a huge Everybody Loves Raymond mark, and to see him kind of get a payday and make a comeback here was really cool to see for me, just personally.
Yeah.
And then it's a almost by the numbers romantic comedy, but it's just so engaging. Like I love everybody in this movie. Like everybody has a purpose. And they all promote their arcs effectively to advance the story.
Yeah.
And it has that great ending too. So, like we talked about earlier, like Adolfo talked about, and like we reviewed a few shows ago, my number 5 is The Big Sick.
Can I just say one thing? Funniest moment of the year, I think, is that 9/11 joke. It's one of the funniest things. 9/11 joke is hilarious.
That's awesome.
And The Big Sick is available, I believe, in Amazon Prime right now, I think.
Right.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, because I think they produced it. I think
you're right. Yeah.
Okay, so here's where we're gonna go. This is gonna open it up for some debate here. Finally, my number 5 is 3 Billboards from Ebbing, Missouri.
All right. I mean, I put it higher, but okay.
So this film, it just hits all the right notes with me. I think it's all the characters are so layered, and by that I mean that you love them and you hate them, and I think that's always a sign of a good character because that's true to life with anybody. And you have Mildred Hayes, who's so goddamn stubborn, and there's times where you just want to say, and it's so selfish, me as a viewer, to say, just get over it, because there's other people that are suffering because of your goddamn obsession here, right? And then you have like Willoughby, who's like, what else could he do? As he's gone through the process to try to figure this out of who raped and killed Mildred's daughter, but it's like, he feels there's also a sense of guilt with him, but Mildred is so unreasonable. But then there's the other side. It's like, well, that's not my daughter, If that was my daughter, how unreasonable would I be? I wouldn't see it like that. You want justice, and then you have the Sam Rockwell character, who's probably the more cartoony character of all of them involved, but he also has so many layers. And you see how flawed he is as a human being with the relationship he has with his mother, because you could tell that the fucking asshole side of Sam Rockwell's character comes from his mother, just the way she's treated him and how the relationship they have, and just so many great scenes in the film. And I've never seen a film where you're laughing so hard one minute and you want to cry the next minute. Like that's so. I think as a filmmaker, that's so hard to pull off, and this guy pulls it off here. I think the story is very good. I think everything works. I think they capture the town life pretty well. The ending, I don't know. I don't really dig the ending too much. I think things get tied up in a bow way too nicely there at the end, considering everything that had happened before. And then, one of the biggest criticism of this movie, because it's supposed to be very grounded, is when Ragwell throws the dude out of the window right in front of the new sheriff there,
Yeah.
and nothing happens to him, right? And I've tried to justify that in my own head as far as like, well, the sheriff fired him and all he wants is a clean slate, but no, he fucking threw a guy right out of the window. Why isn't there no criminal charges? But and again, it's very Coen brothery too, as far as how like it's a big old calamity. When Hayes is kind of going through her shit and she sets the police station on fire, I'm like, oh shit, what's gonna happen now? But things kind of work out. So it kept me in the edge of my seat, and it's just a great film, man. I really loved it.
Right, I'm gonna skip ahead too because like we did that with
Logan.
With Logan, yeah. So Three Billboards is my number one of 2017. I think we reviewed this last episode before Adolfo gets his rebuttal in, because I know he's oozing just to get his 2 cents in right now. But I have to say again, this is a film about shades of gray, and it's one of those movies that I'm sitting there watching it, and it's like everyone's a tweener. Mildred's a tweener. Sammy Rockwell's a tweener.
It has a lot of Shakespeare themes to it because all his characters are shades of gray too. It's so fucking good, man. This is a great film. I love when fucking, because we're supposed to be rooting for Mildred, but then she's kind of a bitch, bro.
Yeah,
and I feel like when Peter Dinklage cuts that promo on her during dinner, like that we had all been thinking that, bro. Like we had all been thinking that the whole time. And it's like, yeah, I might be a little person, but you're not a catch either, And it's like, what's up? It's like there's so much frustration there, and it never really gets resolved, And so, but no, it's a great film.
Right, and then on the other side of that, you have Sammy Rockwell, who you're supposed to be the lead heel, and yet he's going through a transformation midpoint through the movie. We're not going to say why, but something happens that he kind of gets hit in the head, figuratively. He's like, wait a minute, what the fuck am I doing with my life? And he starts little by little, trying to redeem. Now, whether he fully redeems himself, that's up to the viewer. But he at least shows steps in wanting to improve and wanting to change. And that's real life, bro. Same thing with Mildred. We're supposed to be rooting for her, but like she's kind of has her own flaws, herself, and that's real life. And all I see with this story, with these characters, is shades of gray. But that's real life, and that's why I probably was able to relate and get more engaged with the story more, because this felt like a real story to me with real people. And that ending, I mean, maybe you didn't like the ending as much, Draven, but I really liked the ending because it kind of leaves it up to the audience again. And I had a great discussion with D when he saw this movie. We talked about the ending for about 20 minutes because it becomes to the point where, okay, yeah, if they decide to get the guy, we don't know for a fact that he is really the guy that did it. But they have like almost their own headcanon that they're convinced it's him. So are they willing to go commit vigilante justice because they believe he's the guy?
No. They don't believe he's the guy. They know he's not the guy, but they know that he's a bad person because he's done other shit.
Yeah, so they're going to project their pain. They're going to project their pain into that guy, and that's why, because that guy, because they had that false finish before in the bar where he wasn't the guy, which was pretty cool too, because I thought that's where this was going, and they kind of threw me off with like, oh, it wasn't him, okay, and so
that's the point though too, like like they know, like the evidence says he's not the guy, but they know he's a shitty guy, so does he still deserve to get killed like that? So that's the question I think that kind of that you're kind of left with when the movie ends, and that's basically you as a person, your own value system decides, okay, is this right or is this wrong? So that's why everybody's response is going to be different. That's what I love about this movie. It's just everything just comes off so real and authentic, and I haven't seen anything like this, all year, in my opinion, and that's why I rank it as my number one.
And also, when he throws out the kid out through the window, and then later on they have that meeting in the hospital, I thought that was a great scene too, because the kid understood that Sam Rockwell was trying to change, and he wasn't selfish. So when he offers them the juice or whatever, I thought that was a very nice scene. You know, it was
Right.
to say, you know what, we're gonna let bygones be bygones because I see you're here with me in the hospital and you want to be a changed man. So here, I'm gonna offer you this, and I thought that was a pretty cool scene.
Yeah.
And so no, yeah, you're right. It was all great, and again, they all have a sense of guilt. You know, why the hell does he take the money to put up those banners? And then we haven't even talked about Willoughby's ending, which is really fucking sad. You know, that when he's reading out that letter, I mean, that's just heartbreaking right there. Because he didn't get to solve the crime, you know, and so again, this is a very good film, man.
I know Adolfo wants to get his 2 cents.
Okay, so Adolfo, just why didn't you like it? What's wrong with it?
Okay, it's not that I don't like it. I think it's just overrated. I think there's a lot of parts that just do not work for me. I think a lot. I know what you guys are saying. Oh, it's real people because people are different shades, and I get that. But to me, that didn't come out. To me, it just came out as an uneven film. So like you said, there are points where you're laughing, and the funny moments are really funny, specifically the Sam Rockwell stuff. But then whenever it gets super serious, it just feels like clunky. It doesn't feel smooth at all. It feels like a slap in the face, like, oh, we just transitioned to this, and it just feels like not a good filmmaker did that. You know what I mean? And that's the stuff that bothers me. That's one of the things that bothers me. The other thing that bothers me is the Sam Rockwell character. Now, I don't mind that he has a babyface turn. That's not what bothers me. What bothers me is how they fucking handled it. It's that up until the point that he does, when he's in okay, we're getting into spoilers here, but up until the point where he's in the police station, he's still an asshole. Like, there's not been any redeeming quality up to him. The only maybe redeeming quality is that he's sad that Woody Harrelson died. But other than that, he's still been mostly an asshole the entire time. And then basically you have him read a letter where the letter tells you, hey, you're not that bad. But, like, I think that's a cop-out. I think, like, you can't have somebody fucking reading a letter and telling the audience, hey, audience, this guy isn't bad. You have to show us that. Like, and they didn't show us that. And that's kind of my main problem with it. Like, you showed him as a fucking racist douchebag that threw a kid out the window and, like, fucking punched this woman in the face right before he did that, and he's clearly a racist. And then right before that, and then almost like a couple scenes after that, there's some letter that says, oh, but he's okay. Like, no, he's fucking not. Like, you have to show me that he's okay. You can't, and you have to do it way before that point. Like, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was to say, here's the thing about the quote unquote babyface turn. I'm gonna go ahead and throw this one at you. It's like, I don't think he turns babyface, because I think at the end of the day, his motivations are still very narcissistic. Like, that whole scene of the bar, you could tell is him having delusions of grandeur. He's like, I'm going to solve this for her. I think that he's still, nothing tells us that he stops being the racist asshole. It's just that his motivations switch to help Mildred out. But he's still the same person he was, except for now he's gonna take it out on somebody else. It's still, believe me, at the end of the movie, they're still not doing the right thing. Vigilante justice is illegal no matter how you slice it or dice it, you know. And I think it's more. I'm gonna go ahead and twist it. I think Mildred embraces her identity as being kind of, you know, who she is, and I think the Peter Dinklage scene kind of solidifies that she's not gonna change. So it's almost like she turns heel. And they kind of join, and they're gonna go out and solve this crime or whatever, and worse yet, they're gonna go project it on somebody else who didn't even do it. So again, that's what I got out of it, and that's a beautiful thing about this film, is that people are gonna get different things out of it, you know, and you know, never in this movie does Rockwell turn into a white meat babyface. I would have agreed with you completely if that was the case.
He doesn't. I'm not saying he does turn into completely white meat babyface. What I'm saying is that it's like it tries to transition him into that, and because of that letter, that letter basically tells the audience he's not a bad guy. You should let more of your good side out, and then after that you see him try to let his good side out. Plus they try to put sympathy on him by having him be a burn victim. So like that that's the stuff. Like, the film is actually trying to get us to give a shit about him as a sympathetic character, not as necessarily as like a, you know,
sure, I see what you're saying.
a Superman, Harry Potter babyface, but like as like they're trying to redeem him at that point. And I think the movie, like everything up until that movie, there's not an up until that letter reading, there's not enough there to redeem him. Like he's to me up until that point he's not redeemable. If they wanted to have him redeemable, they should have put more shit in there before that letter to make it to kind of prepare you for it. And that's kind of my point. I just felt there was a little too much of that stuff going on. Plus, and I brought this up in our review, that one scene where fucking Francis McDormand cuts a promo on the Catholic Church. That was like, okay, that's just the filmmaker cutting a promo on the Catholic Church. That really has nothing to do really with anything else. Like, and I guess that's kind of my problem. Like, it's not a bad movie. I just think there are a lot of it's kind of like Phantom Thread, where a lot of the elements are good to me, but the whole doesn't work, and that's kind of my problem with it. Like, I love all the
better
acting.
than Shape of Water. I'll tell you that right now.
What's that?
It certainly ain't better than Shape of Water.
No, to me it's not. Absolutely not. And we'll get to that a little later. But like Francis McDormand, excellent. Sam Rockwell was excellent, despite like the flaws of the story. Like, his performance was awesome. Woody Harrelson I thought was awesome, and I think he was the best character in the movie. So like, and you know what? It actually has one of my favorite. Despite the fact that I think the movie's overrated, it does have actually one of my favorite like scenes of acting, and that's whenever after Frances McDormand does something, and I can't remember what she does, something that like gets her in trouble and gets her back to the office, to the cops, and like Woody Harrelson's like, when she stabs the fucking dentist, and Woody Harrelson's interrogating her, and he's like, and then out of nowhere he just coughs blood on her face, and then she has that moment of like sympathy for him, and she goes, I think she says like, I know, baby, I know. And like, that is a fantastic piece of acting right there, and I'm not going to take that away from this movie. I just think I have a lot of problems with some of the stuff they tried to do that to me didn't work.
But I also that scene is kind of very cold too, because Mildred kind of tells Willoughby like, I don't care that you have cancer. Like, this broad ain't gonna budge. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's still gonna hold on to this.
No, but that was the first time. That was not the second time. She told me she didn't care about cancer the first time that you see them together.
Right. When they're in the swing set, right? Yeah. That's the first. But and to be fair too, they do establish that Sam Rockwell's character really looks up to Willoughby. So that letter really kind of resonates with him. Like, they really establish that this motherfucker almost sees him as a father figure. He's always kissing his ass, and he's always behind him. So I'm not to justify, you know, my argument over yours, but that letter did have a lot of power over him when he finally got to read it. And he finally got to see certain things kind of make sense, you know, because also another thing about this movie too, and I think some of the best movies use this plot device. The movie also has a lot of misunderstandings between characters, and I think once you get everybody together and you talk things out, certain things make more sense, and you're allowed to let go of certain things. So but I could see your criticisms too. Again, the whole window scene doesn't sit well with me. It really fucks with me, because the whole time I'm thinking this fucking guy should be in jail right now, but he's not. And that was only to serve the plot, which is kind of a, you know, if they were gonna go, if they don't want to put themselves in the corner, he should have just whooped his ass. Why does he have to throw it? Just so he could get that cool shot of him fucking taking a bump out to the street and shit? That's the only reason they did it, you know. So
and the thing is that's a great shot. It is a fantastic shot.
It is a great shot, yeah.
But again, to me, it's
he went all like Alejandro Iñárritu with that shot.
Yeah, he did. And to me, but after that, it's like that character, he's just not redeemable at that point. And the movie, I feel, just tries to redeem him, and it doesn't work for me.
There is a thing about putting way too much heat on a heel and then being. I hate when movies do that, because it's like we get no payoff. That's why, you know, to go back to the Star Wars thing. If Kylo Ren doesn't in any way, shape, or form die at the end of Episode 9, I'm gonna be very pissed, because this they sacrificed Han Solo to put this guy over as a fucking villain, right. and there is no coming back from that, bro.
No,
the only way you come back is you gotta be dead. That's it.
No, yeah, you gotta be punished for that.
Yeah, and that's it. None of this. Oh, all of a sudden he sees the light at the end of Episode 9 and he joins it. No, I don't want to see that shit, because that totally spits in the face of Force Awakens and the great fucking Han Solo scene, you know. So I don't want to see that. Anyway, I digress. But yeah. So going back to this film, my top 5. It's in my top 5, number 5, and it is a great movie.
Yeah, and then again, Adolfo, I definitely see where you're coming from as far as that criticism. Like, it did resonate with me, but I also feel that the reason why that letter is the turning point for Sammy Rockwell's character is because, he, like Draven said, he does see Willoughby as a father figure, and he's probably the one that knows him the most because he spends practically every fucking day with him. So I'm sure that there's good that Sammy Rockwell has done that Willoughby is seeing, which is why he's reminding him in that letter, in his last letter to him, I've seen you do good things. I know you're a good person. Just be more like that, because he's seen him like that outside of, the movie, like in their time together. I'm sure he's seen good things that he's done. So he just wants him to remember that he is a good person.
But again, show, don't tell. You're telling me that. You're not showing it to me. And movie's a visual medium. Don't tell me, show me. That's my point.
And also, like we said, it's not like Sam Rockwell. He's still a fucking nutcase. Whether he's beating fuckers up at a bar, this guy's delusional. Even when he's trying to do good, and he thinks he's gonna be the savior, and ends up blowing up in his face, and he still fucking goes at the end, get in the car and let's go get this fucking guy. So I don't know. I just feel like it's more like Mildred Hayes. It just turns heel at the end because she never really not becomes a bitch. Like she's always a bitch in the entire movie, And that's why our boy Peter Dinklage had to cut a promo on her. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, come on, and also let the kind of cringeworthy moment where she's like, "I hope you get raped," and then, oh yeah, she gets raped.
Oh yeah, that was.
And we didn't even give props to our boy John Hawkes.
John Hawkes was awesome.
Oh, that's right.
John Hawkes was awesome.
Who was dating a 19-year-old for some reason.
I have no problem with the acting. Acting was awesome in this movie. Top class. I agree with all the acting nominations it got. Fantastic. I just, as a whole, didn't feel it.
All right, Adolfo, your number 5.
My
number 5 is Dunkirk. And again, you mentioned it earlier. It doesn't have a lot of character development. It is more about the moment and the moment in history and like what happens to like get these people off of the
Dunkirk.
I was saying the island, but it's not an island. And I do love how like it screws with your method of time, and then once you finally catch on to it, you're like, oh, I get it now. And then that whole once you get it and you see it in that context, that the movie kind of just locks in place for you. And it is, and I just respect this whole film. Less as a story, but more as just a production, because every production element was just fantastic, from the editing to the sound mixing to the music to the visual effects to everything. And there's actually one moment that I really love in this movie is at the very end of the film, after fucking Tom Hardy in his Bane mask shoots down the last guy, and then he's like running out of fuel, and then he just kind of glides to the to the beach. Like, I don't know why, but I found that like really moving. I don't know what it was about that, the way that was shot, and I don't know if there was music playing during that moment. I don't remember, but just the way he just starts gliding towards the beach, I was like really moved. And then later when he sets fire to the plane, out of both those shots were just so beautifully composed. And so if it wins cinematography and Roger Deakins doesn't get it, I'm not going to be too mad. I just really want Deakins to get it. But it was like when I walked out of that movie, it's like, Jesus Christ, Christopher Nolan can direct the fuck out of a movie. Because like, again, not as a story, but just as a fucking production from start to finish, that is a movie. That is how you make a movie.
Yeah.
It is very touching, and I think because remember as he's gliding, first of all, he knows that he's gonna go into enemy territory. Like, he just knows it because he's gliding right into it. And I love how he's so isolated. Like, the more he's gliding into enemy territory, the lonelier he gets. At first, you see him with a bunch of people, then the beach gets more empty and empty and empty and empty, and then it's just him gliding, and you have that beautiful cinematography of the sunset in the back and the ocean in the front, and he knows exactly where he's gonna land, and he knows that he's fucked. But as this is going on, you also have the celebration of the troops landing, and I think they took them to the UK. I think that's where they're all getting off them. So they're all happy, they're all cheering and stuff. And so you have those two scenes going hand in hand. And you also get the sense that Tom Hardy was one of these heroes that is never going to get the credit for what he did, And then also it's Tom Hardy's facials, because when he gets off, he just looks so like sad, like fuck, like all this, and here I am. And then you have the last visual of him where they come with the guns, and he has to raise his hands or whatever. And so it is very touching in that sense, and it was very, very well filmed. Dunkirk was a great movie, no doubt about it.
Definitely one of the best of the year, absolutely. My number four is a Disaster Artist. And it's kind of a shame that it's nominated for one category this year for the screenplay, and it's probably not going to win. So it pains me that we're not going to get a wacky Tommy Wiseau speech at the Oscars this year. But I don't know. I mean, I came out of this movie the first time, and I got a huge kick out of this movie. And it's not just the acting. You know, James Franco was amazing here. He rightfully got his Golden Globe win. And that's going to be like the peak, you know, of his success with this movie, unfortunately. But just everything. This movie had heart, and I think that's what resonated with me the most. When a movie has heart and it just projects through the screen the way it does with this movie, like I remember it. Like I came out of that movie, and I've never said this sentence in my entire life until probably after I saw this movie. But I wanted to see The Room again. Nobody ever says I want to see The Room, but I wanted to see The Room again after watching this movie. And that just kind of shows you like the kind of like effect that it has on you, that, you know, you want to subjugate yourself to that. And I just like just the overall essence of the movie, the overall heart that it has, like what it's trying to do, what it's trying to accomplish. And I had a lot of fun with this. So that's why I'm ranking it at number 4 for 2017.
It is a almost like a love story too, which you know, you had Tommy Wiseau's character. All he wanted to do was have friends. You know, you could tell that, you know, before he met, was the character's name's Nick, right? Craig. Before he met Craig, like you could tell that he was a very lonely guy. And one of the things that's very interesting is that even in this day and age of technology and the internet, this guy Tommy Wiseau is still pretty mysterious. Like we still don't know how old he is, and we have ideas, you know, but we don't know where he got all his money. We don't know any of that stuff, you know. And the guy was loaded. I mean, and so so that it was interesting to get to see that. Now there is the book, The Disaster Artist. People have, you should read it, because that one
great book, amazing.
So you have read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So okay, good, because that's really where you get the real essence of the relationship.
Potatoes. Yeah.
But I thought it was good. I didn't think it was. I mean, it was a fun movie. It was. I think it was a story that needed to be told. It was worth telling because the guy is a character. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's a wacky guy who's somehow been able to keep this persona after all these years. And so, you know, the only thing that concerns me now is that the guy's probably gonna ham it up now. Like, are we seeing the real Tommy Wiseau, or are we seeing like a guy's just gonna ham it up because he knows, you know, how he comes off to the general audience? That's the only thing that concerns me now. But other than that, the film was okay. You know, I was expecting just a little more, but we got what we got.
Yeah.
Like the audience I saw it on opening night, and the audience I saw it with, it was packed. It was like, and it was filled with completely with people that knew what The Room was, which helped, right? And that audience was so ready for it, and it was, you know, it colors your perception whenever you see a movie with a comedy, especially. And the other one I think that has this effect is horror movies, but a comedy, whenever the audience is reacting exactly how they're supposed to react, because it's a funny movie, it's a comedy, except for, I mean, there's some drama to it, but for the most part, it's a comedy, and it's all the moments that are funny are very funny, and whenever it works in an audience, you get that experience. It's so much better than whenever you watch that by yourself. And I liked the film. I don't think it was excellent enough to make my top 10. It's an honorable mention for me. But you know, the only thing I'm gonna say, it is a shame that, and through his own doing, Franco's not going to get the recognition, you know, for this film. And the other thing I thought, not really even Franco, but like, and I said this on our last episode, but like, you know, with this whole movement going on, should people be punished? Yeah, they should. If they're doing shitty things and if they're being fucking assholes, they should be punished. But what I kind of, and you know, people have a hard time, you know, separating the art from the artist, and I'm not even gonna get into that. But like, James Franco, he produced it and he's the star of it, but he's not the only person who worked on that film. Like, hundreds of people worked on that film. To like boycott that movie for one guy just seems wrong to me, because there's a lot of people that worked on that movie that didn't like fucking rape people, right? I'm not saying he raped, whatever he did, whatever he's accused of, you know, and then that seems kind of wrong to me, to like boycott an entire movie over the actions of one person, you know, whenever so many other people worked on it to make it what it was, right? So right. That to me is a bit of a shame. But That said, I think as on its own, it's a very fun comedy. It doesn't quite make my top 10, but it's especially if you've seen The Room, it's a good companion piece.
Definitely. Draven, you're number 4.
Okay, my number 4 is Happy Death Day. I don't know if you guys-
Really?
Yeah, I really love this movie, man.
Wow.
Remember, I'm a huge horror fan, so just having something original. I mean, who would ever? It was so easy, right? Just have Groundhog Day with a horror movie, and try not to get killed. I thought this movie was very clever and original as fuck. Did you guys ever get to see it?
No, I haven't seen it
No,
yet.
I haven't seen it yet. I know what it is. I skipped it because I didn't think it was going to be any good.
No, it was just. I mean, I wouldn't. It's not a fucking cinematic masterpiece, but it's just a fun thrill ride all through and through. I mean, it's about this girl who keeps on waking up every day over and over, and she keeps on getting killed by this like this killer, serial killer who wears a wacky like baby head, and so the whole thing is that every time she wakes up, she knows she has more clues because of the day before. So little by little, she tries to outsmart him, but she always gets caught up again, and something always happens to where this guy keeps on killing her, and you're trying to find out who it is, why it's happening, and the girl's kind of a bitch in the beginning, so she kind of gets what she deserves, and they do this on purpose. As the movie's progressing, she becomes more and more of a nicer person. Every single day, there's a guy that has a crush on her that she kind of blows off, but as the movie's going, she kind of warms up to him, and then later on, he kind of helps her out. But it's kind of cool because every day she has to get up and start all over again, and the guy doesn't know her again. So it was a good movie, man. I mean, I know they also did this with what was the Tom Cruise movie again? Because I know they changed the Edge of Tomorrow, right?
Tomorrow, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that it's kind of has that vibe. They have the montage where like she keeps on getting up and gets killed, gets up and gets killed over and over. And it's like, damn, how does she outsmart this guy? And finally, as the days are going, and it's the same day over again, she finally manages a way to kind of trick him. And I guess the whole thing about it is that she has to survive the entire day without getting killed by this guy, and then she will go back to her regular life. So it was very original. It's a Blumhouse film, which I have a soft spot for, and it's definitely something that I would recommend the people go watch.
Blumhouse,
Oh,
Oscar-nominated film with Get Out for this year. By the
That's
way.
right. That's right. And they're certainly gonna juice the fuck out of that if they win.
Adolfo, you're number 4.
My number 4 is a movie that has not been mentioned at all so far. It's a movie I just watched yesterday, and it's a movie that caught me completely by surprise. And it's not Call Me by Your Name, it's just Your Name. And it's this anime that came out last year that I had no idea even existed, but someone recommended it to me. And it's this. It's not an anime like Dragon Ball or any of that stuff. It's more of like a. It's basically there's a boy and a girl, teenage boy, teenage girl, that all of a sudden they start body switching, but one of them is in like Tokyo and one of them is like in like the boonies in the mountains or something. And so the boy wakes up in the girl's body, the girls wake up in the boy's body, and it's kind of funny because the first thing the boy does is like grab the boobs and everything, and he does it like every single day. And it starts out as just this funny thing, but then they start to realize what's happening with each other, but because they will switch back every other day. And then at one point they realize that they can start kind of helping each other's lives out from the other person's perspective. And then as the movie progresses, you find out why they're body switching, and then you find out. I don't want to go into the spoilers of it, but there's a spoiler that happens that you realize that they're actually, even though they're body switching, they're not actually even in the same time. Like they're close to each other, but not the same time at all. And then from that point, the movie goes fucking crazy, like crazy sci-fi fantasy. At that point, it's I can't even. It has a really touching, emotional ending, and it's on Netflix right now. If anybody wants to watch it, you can watch it on Netflix. But it's really, really surprising, and I never expected to like it. But as soon as I watched it, it jumped into my top 10, and it's the movie Your Name.
Nice.
Okay, check it out.
And by the way,
So-
I generally don't like anime, so this is a surprise to me that it's in here.
Yeah, none of us like Dragon's Balls here. So
No, I don't watch that shit.
That shit. All right, so our top 3. We're entering the top 3 now. So my number 3 is Get Out. We've talked extensively about Get Out in previous episodes. There's not much more to get into here. We've dissected probably every single thing there is to dissect about that movie. but it's just the fact that we were able to get such a great discussion out of Get Out. I think it went about 45 minutes just getting through every single thing about Get Out. It's amazing. Jordan Peele, director, wrote the story. It's just what a great effort from this guy, and not even just him. The acting here is tremendous, especially Daniel Kaluuya. Really great performance. Like everybody here was awesome. I mean, if you want to hear our we did like 2 different reviews of Get Out. They're both in the archives. Definitely check that out. But definitely a dark horse to win Best Picture. It's probably maybe I'm rooting for it more as an underdog to win it, but just an amazing film that definitely needs to be seen. My number 3 is Get Out.
Okay. I agree with everything you guys said. That's a great movie. Let's see.
Number 3, Draven.
Okay, my number 3 is The Killing of a Sacred Deer. I mean...
okay. So I want to hear about this because I wanted to see this because it's from the guy who made The Lobster, but I never got around to checking it out yet.
So, again, the movie's very unconventional in a lot of... It's a little more straightforward than The Lobster. It's not as artsy fartsy, I guess you would say, as The Lobster, but it's still a very auteurish kind of film. And it's kind of once you kind of embrace what's going on, it's a basic story. Without no spoilers here, what's his name? Colin Farrell's character during surgery kills this kid's father. Is that a spoiler?
No,
Adolfo?
I don't think it's really a spoiler.
And so, well, so when the movies start, because it's very weird. You have to kind of get into that world. Stephen Murphy, who's Colin Farrell, he strikes up this relationship with this kid, and he's a young kid, and you're wondering what the fuck's going on here.
It's the same kid from Dunkirk, by the way. It's the same
yeah,
it's the kid from the boat.
And so you're wondering, oh shit. And the movie has some weird quirks about it, like the way they have sex, like the way Colin Farrell has sex with Nicole Kidman, who's his wife. And so, the way they talk, that's another thing that throws people off. They talk very robotic. Everybody does. And you're wondering, okay, this is going to be one of those films, right? Like I'm thinking we're going to have a Mother scenario here, or even like a Lobster film, which is a very unconventional film as well. But no, as the story is progressing, you start finding out the motivation of this kid, which is he got upset because he thinks that Colin Farrell's character killed his dad, not on purpose, but because Colin Farrell likes to drink. He was intoxicated during surgery, and he allowed his dad to die. So the kid puts a curse on Colin Farrell's family and him that he has to take a life back that he took, being his dad. And he has to kill one of his own kids or his wife, And if he doesn't, little by little, one by one, they're all going to have a horrible death, And then sure enough, it does happen. And so that's pretty much the gist of the movie. And then as we progress, they're trying to, they're trying to talk the kid off of not doing them. They hold them up for a while in the basement. And the ending is very ballsy because it doesn't have a happy ending. And it left me an impression because, again, it was kind of it was one of those films that definitely stayed with me and is going to stay with me for a long time. And just the way the movie's, the progression of the story, everything about it, I really like this film a lot. I purchased it on Blu-ray and I'm going to watch it again. And it's just a great film.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a dark as fuck movie.
I mean, the ending is so dark, and it's. But is it really tragic though? I mean, I don't know. I just it's almost like because they never really say. Actually, they do admit it because Nicole Kidman kind of calls out Colin Farrell on this. The kid was right. I do believe that Colin Farrell was intoxicated when he was doing surgery.
Yeah.
And they have a scene where it's like, yeah, But what left me with the impression that this film left on me is how it was filmed and how the performances came about. Because also, I don't know if Adolfo, if you caught this, like as the movie's getting darker and darker, it's actually kind of like they stop being so robotic and it almost becomes a regular movie.
Yeah.
Towards the end.
Yeah.
In the beginning is very weird and quirky.
It is weird and it throws you off for a bit because when you're first watching, you're like, what the fuck is this? And then as it goes on, it does. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because I thought it was just me that picked up on it. Maybe they're still talking robotic, but no, I think they kind of get normal, and then it just becomes a regular like revenge film or whatever. But yeah, no, I definitely recommend it. Is it because I think a lot of people are thrown off by this director because of his artsy fartsy past. But this is not an art. It has its quirks, but it's a simple storyline. We could follow it, and it's a good movie. And I think people were intimidated by The Lobster and some of his other films that are a little more. They have a lot of symbolism in them, you know.
Yeah, I think I've seen all his, or at least all his movies in like since Dogtooth. Dogtooth was the first one I saw.
Yeah.
And I love that movie. That movie's fucking weird as shit, but it's also really good. Alps I didn't like, and The Lobster I'm conflicted on. But this one I enjoyed. This one I liked, but it's pitch black dark. Like, don't go into it expecting, puppies and kittens. It's you're not gonna get it.
Right.
The only thing I didn't like was the ending. Like in the diner, is like, come on, they're all gonna be there, and it's like the kids just there eating, and it's like I don't know. I thought it's almost like the director found himself into a corner. He didn't know how to get out of it, so it's like, okay, fuck it. This is the ending I'm gonna put, and that's it.
Definitely. Yeah, I can't wait to check that out. That's definitely on my to watch list. Adolfo, you're number 3.
My number 3 is Coco. I know it's a second animated film right back next to the other one, but I love this movie. And both of you guys have already talked about it. There's not much more else I can say, but Coco I thought was one of the most beautiful looking, like just from an artistic perspective, like the actual look of that film was gorgeous. Work that Pixar has done in a long time. Pixar has had some kind of middle of the road movies in the last few years, Finding Dory and like the Cars movies. But this is what Pixar is. When they do it right, this is what Pixar is. It's Coco. That's my number 3.
Awesome.
Okay.
Awesome. So number 2. So my number 2 of the year is Baby Driver. This was my number 1 for the longest time until I saw 3 Billboards. This was just like, I mean, Draven, you talked about it earlier. This was another experience, in the theater, especially, Edgar Wright, I don't think has made a bad film yet. I think we talked about that in our review. Edgar Wright is like batting 1,000 right now. And hopefully keep up the momentum. But like, this was just another great work from him. Everybody here was awesome. The story was great. I'm a sucker for like, really good car chases, practical ones as well. And, all these car chases were really done super well. And I was just infatuated with the story. Like the story just hit every note for me. And, this is one of those really fun action movies that that has heart behind it. And I was able to really get behind everything that, Edgar was trying to do. Ansel Elgort was great. Everything just clicked here. And then especially that final chase sequence, at the bank when everything goes to shit was so awesome and well done. It's just, oh man. I mean, that's one of those movies that I'm going to constantly rewatch. It's going to be in my rotation forever. Number 2 is Baby Driver.
One of the things that I like about the character of Ansel Elgort is that, our instincts is to write him kind of weakly, getting punked up by all the other tougher characters. But this guy pushes back, man. He doesn't take any shit. Now he's a very calm kid, and obviously he has a hearing problem. That's the reason why he listens to the music. And he's a little, he's a little bit of a little fellow, if you know what I mean, in a lot of ways too. but he gets the job done, and he has this ability to be a good driver. And guys, especially because you could tell that in his world he's surrounded by all these bullies, right? All these thugs, so they think they could fucking kind of push him around. And now the great Jamie Foxx scene where he's like, "Fuck this shit," and even though he let his emotions fuck everything up at that point, he still wasn't gonna take shit from him. And he did what he did. I'm not gonna spoil it, but I also thought that John Hamm towards the end really, really picked it up, like to become like the number 1 villain in that movie.
Yes, that was a big swerve for me.
Because he doesn't start as the villain. He
exactly.
You almost feel that he's the one that's gonna kind of mentor Ansel Elgort's character, but it doesn't turn out like that. and so that was kind of cool. Kevin Spacey's also in it, probably in one of his last paydays. And so
well, one of his last paydays for now. Honestly, what I bet will happen, he's gonna like pay his penance for a couple of years, then someone's gonna put him in like an indie movie that's gonna get a lot of praise, and then people will start to bring him back. That's what I think is gonna happen to him.
I was gonna say Tarantino will rediscover him, but he's also from hot water, so who knows when we're gonna get another Tarantino movie anymore. So no, I'm with you. I thought this was a great movie, really good movie.
Right. And I know your number 2 is Logan.
Yes,
Draven. So I don't know if you want to say anything more about it.
No, that's it. Let's go to Adolfo's number 2.
Yeah. So essentially, okay. So our lists are done, Draven. So my number 1's 3 Billboards. Your number 1 is Shape of Water. So it's all Adolfo now, 2 and 1 for him. So.
Well, my number 2 is Get Out, which we already talked about. Probably very relevant in current times as far as shit that's going on in the news and everything. So right. I totally, I can't say anything else that you guys haven't already said about Get Out. So it's my number 2, and then number 1, Shape of Water. That's my favorite movie.
Oh, really?
Yep. It was. I struggled a little bit between Shape of Water and Get Out for the longest time, but when I thought about what is Get Out might be more politically relevant, but I think Shape of Water is just artistically one of the best films. I mean, the best film artistically of the year.
Well, now could I say what movie never came up that I thought was gonna come up?
Yeah, sure.
Wind River.
I never saw it.
I never saw it.
I never saw it. I've heard good things about it, but I never saw it.
That was a great film. It wasn't in my top 10, but it was it was very Quentin Tarantino-esque.
Really?
Yeah, I think Taylor Sheridan did it. He's got a good filmography himself. But the way it's a typical Tarantino tropes where you have all these characters and then they all meet up, and that's all I'll say about that. It has a great flashback scene because what it is that Jeremy Renner's character and Elizabeth Olsen's character, they're trying to. It's kind of a murder mystery. And it's almost like The Hateful Eight, where you go through this entire film, and then at the end they tell you exactly what happened the day of the murder, and so you get that closure, and it's pretty cool because after that all hell breaks loose, and so it's a very, very good movie. The only reason that it wasn't in my top 10 was because I thought Elizabeth Olsen was kind of miscast big time as like this kind of tough and rugged like FBI agent. I thought she was way too young for that, and it kind of shows a lot of the time. But other than that, it was a very good film, and I definitely recommend you guys should watch it as soon as possible.
It's on my to-watch list. Yeah, I've been trying to watch it for a while.
Right. So John Bertham's in it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a very good movie.
Awesome. So everybody, that wraps up our top 10 best of 2017. So where there's always the best, you got to talk about the worst for a little bit as well. So we're not going to take too much time on this. I'm not even going to give big speeches about why I hate these movies. If you've listened to the reviews, a lot of these we did initial reviews for on previous episodes. Check out the archives on iTunes. But and I don't have any honorable mentions for this either. I'm just gonna name them real quick, and then I'll name my 5, you name your 5, and then Adolfo names his 5. So real quick here, my number 5 worst of 2017, the Emoji Movie, just absolute shit. But for a lot of people,
why did you even watch
Movie was. Why did I watch it? For more for edification than anything else. But it's funny. A lot of people named Emoji Movie as their worst of 2017. These other 4 movies I think were much worse on so many levels. Number 4, Ghost in the Shell. That's more of a disappointment to me because I was really looking forward to seeing that movie. I actually saw it when I was in Orlando for WrestleMania week during my afternoons off. I think it was a Tuesday for SmackDown. In the afternoon, I decided to go see a Ghost in the Shell, and I regretted my time there completely afterwards.
Never saw it for that reason. Nobody has anything good to say about that movie, so I never bothered to watch it.
I actually had some good things to say about that movie when we reviewed it. It's not a good film. It's pretty to look at though, so there's some redeeming qualities about it. It was produced well. It just wasn't directed or written well.
Yeah, but I mean, not enough to save it for me though, unfortunately. But number 3, 50 Shades Darker. What else do I fucking need to say about that movie?
Why do you watch these films, dude? I mean,
again, just for edification's sake, so I can say that I watched it.
All right.
I'll watch anything. But number 2, Transformers. Full disclosure, I think I talked about it when we reviewed the movie. My my mother's a huge Transformers mark. I don't know why. I can't explain it, but she loves those movies. So I took her to see this, so I could actually sit there and say I watched it. And I wanted to shoot myself halfway through. It's one of those things where, like, you know, I'm being nice, but it's like I'm ready to just walk out and leave her there at that point. You know, it was one of those really bad times. But if that's my number 2, so then what could be number 1? I think Adolfo can guess what my number 1 is, because I buried this movie for about 20 minutes when we reviewed it, and that's Pirates of the Caribbean. Fuck Johnny Depp for that poor performance. Fuck that movie for being a piss poor Pirates movie. They need to stop making these fucking movies because they all suck. And that's my top 5 worst of 2017.
I only saw the first one, The Curse of the Black Pearl, and then I remember I tried seeing the second one. It was so boring, and I've just never seen any of them ever since. I've thought about like watching them all because, you know, they're big movies and they have big production values, but everybody says that there's a decent one in the middle there, right? Like there's a decent one.
I like that man's chest,
I think everyone likes the first one. Nobody likes the rest of them.
Oh, okay. Because I really, really like the first one. I thought it was for its time. For its time, it was a fun ride. And then the second one sucked, but I remember hearing there was a decent one there in them because there's 5 of them now. So anyways, okay. So let me go ahead and give my worst. Well, I'm gonna go ahead. Logan Lucky. I thought that was a piece of shit.
Really? Okay.
There's a movie called Hangman with Al Pacino that was just horrendous. I think it was a VOD movie, and it was one of those murder mysteries where he's a detective in every fucking film he does now. So it's one of those where he's trying to solve the murder, and it's a big mess.
Al Pacino, I think all he's in it is for paydays now, because I think he just rather does like he likes to do his stage work, and I think he just does these shit movies just to get a payday so that he can continue doing his stage work. Like I think that's the stage he's at as his career. He's like, just give me the money, I'll show up, I'll do like 3 weeks of work, and then I can go back to my play.
Then you have Flatliners. That one was a fucking piece of
I
shit,
heard about
man.
that one.
It's like, I mean, the first one is a cult classic and everybody loves it. It's a good film, but this one is just so pedestrian and just the characters have no chemistry, and it has a pretty good cast too, but it just goes nowhere. Did you guys ever see Skyline back about 10 years ago?
Yeah, I remember Skyline.
Because they came up with a sequel called Beyond Skyline.
What?
With the Alpha Frank Grillo. That was last year.
I'll watch it just for him, bro. Like legit.
Man, this movie sucks, bro. It's one of the worst pieces of shit I've ever seen. I know why it went right to VOD. And then possibly the worst film I've seen is I think I'm gonna go with Battle of the Sexes. I didn't like that movie at all.
Really?
Yeah.
That got some praise, like in different circles. You know, that was almost an awards contender.
Yeah, but I it was so gimmicky and it's, first of all, it's like 2.5 hours. Right. And second of all, it just drags and drags and drags, and I put it as my number 1 because of the expectations that I had going into it, and it just didn't deliver. So, anyways, that's my list right there.
Yeah, Adolfo.
So I actually had a hard time coming up with this. Like, not really the last. The 3 of them were easy, but the other 2, I actually struggled to find 2 other ones because I didn't hate a lot of movies this year because I tried to avoid movies I thought would actually suck. Like I tried really hard to avoid anything I thought I would hate. So the first 2 aren't really movies I hated, but I just ended up being disappointed by because I thought they would be better based on, you know, the marketing or the trailers or whatever. I just thought they would be better movies. The first one is Roman J. Israel Esquire, just because, you know, it's Denzel and he's a good actor, and I thought maybe at least it could get, because some of those Denzel movies, even if they're not good, you at least get some entertainment value out of them, and I just wasn't entertained. I thought like the political messaging was a little on the heavy-handed side.
And the ending of that movie is so cheesy. Like, it's so predictable.
The ending is so bad, and it's
like, oh my god,
they try to cram like this thriller movie in like 10 minutes until the end, and it's just like, no, this doesn't work. So again, it's not a horrible movie, but I didn't hate it, but I was just disappointed by it. The other one, it came out really early in the year, like maybe February or March of 2017. The movie Life with Jake Gyllenhaal and Ryan Reynolds. I thought this movie was bad. Like, it was kind of really sucky. I thought it was going to be like they really tried to make it the next Alien, and instead it just ended up like the quote unquote monster was really bad. Like, it was basically just this blob of goo that just kind of went around killing everybody, and it just didn't work for me at all. I will give it credit that the ending. I'm not going to spoil it for anybody who wants to see it, but the ending is bleak. The ending is not a happy ending, which I will give it credit for.
I would say this is the prequel to Venom. How about that?
Yeah, it could be. It could have been the prequel to Venom. It really could have been. I'll give it credit for having a bleak ending, but other than that, I was bored. Honestly, the whole time I was watching, I was really bored out of my mind.
Let me say real fast that scene with Ryan Reynolds where he kind of let's just say he discovers the alien. Let's just say this way: he's the one that has the first interaction with the alien. It just dragged on forever. And
oh
I'm
my
like,
god!
okay,
It's just him trying to act against the green, like something
yeah,
that's
like,
not
oh
there.
my god! It just goes on, and also you know what? There's no life in life, bro. That none of the actors, like none of them show any fire. There's no chemistry with any of this crew, and the cast is. I mean, you got the fucking Gyllenhaal, and he's just kind of he's just getting a paycheck, and that's very rare for him.
Yeah,
but,
everyone in this movie was getting a paycheck. Like, didn't care about this movie.
Yeah, so I agree with you on this one.
Yeah, I didn't like this one. Okay, so the other three that I actually did see that like I really didn't like. The Mummy. I was actually kind of.
I remember that. Yeah.
This movie did everything wrong. Like, everything you could do wrong to jumpstart a franchise, this movie did wrong. And I actually was excited about the concept of like the Universal Monsters like cinematic universe, or however you want to call it.
Well, that's fucking dead.
I thought that was a cool idea, and this movie was just so bad. Everything from the clunky way they tried to like reference like all the other shit in the universe to like fucking the unneeded storyline of Dr. Jekyll in the middle of the movie, that fucking Russell Crowe turning into Mr. Hyde for no reason in the fucking middle of the movie, other than to just have an action beat. It was just a bad movie.
Franchise killer.
And then Tom Cruise doing like a Bruce Campbell impression throughout the entire movie as this kind of clunky, wacky guy. It's like, just fucking hire Bruce Campbell if you're going to do that.
And that's the other thing, is that Tom Cruise is miscast. He's not that guy. That's not the guy you cast for this movie. If you cast like, I don't even know who he was trying to be. I don't know who he was trying to be, but it's like Tom Cruise can't do that character. Tom Cruise can do like Ethan Hunt in Mission Impossible, right? He can't do this character, and it didn't work. The other one, The Dark Tower, was a big, huge mess. I don't know the book. I don't really care about the book. I've never read the book. I'm not upset that it didn't follow the book, so that's not why I hated it. I hated it because it just didn't work at all. It was not really. It was over way too soon, as far as like, not that I wanted to sit there anymore, but as far as like the setup and the payoff was way too rushed. Matthew McConaughey was way hamming it up in this film, like so horribly bad. It was like Tommy Lee Jones and Batman Forever bad. Like, it was just bad. And the movie just didn't go anywhere. Like, it sets up this whole universe, and then it just it just goes to the payoff right away. And this movie didn't work. And again, I don't care. I have no attachment to the source material, so I don't care if it's faithful or not. People tell me it's not. That doesn't matter to me because I haven't read it. So as a non-fan, the movie sucked. And then the last one, it's a short film that I had to watch because my daughter wanted to buy it. It's Olaf's Frozen Adventure. Fuck that movie, man. That's 30 minutes I'm never gonna get back. By the way, I actually like Frozen the movie a little less now that my daughter's watched it 100 times, but the original Frozen movie is actually a fun little animated movie, despite the fact that it was like everywhere and everyone sang those Let It Go songs on YouTube and everything. Despite all that, I actually do enjoy that movie. But this Olaf movie was such a blatant cash grab that it's like every negative stereotype about Disney and what they do to get money is this fucking little 30-minute movie. This 30-minute movie feels like 4 hours. It's so fucking stupid. I'm glad for like, apparently it played like before Coco.
We saw it before Coco.
I didn't see it before Coco. I saw it like because they pulled it after like a week or something. I saw it because like my my daughter saw it as an option to buy on like our smart TV, so I bought it for her, thinking, well, how bad could it be? It's 30 minutes. Fuck, Jesus Christ, that fucking 30 minutes is horrible. So that's my number one worst movie of the year is Olaf's Frozen Adventure.
I remember these are kids. I remember being in the theater with a room full of kids, and everybody was getting so restless because this movie wasn't connected. Like, when is Coco gonna start? You know, it's like, fuck. And it just went on forever and ever and ever and ever. It's like, Jesus. 30 minutes, it seemed, like you said, it was like 4 hours.
Yeah, so that's my number one.
All right. So, before we get out of here, I don't really have anything else to add as far as, like, because I know we have one more category, technically. That's, like, more of the underrated films of the year. I really don't have anything to add because I know, Draven, you're good at you know, discovering those gems. Adolfo, you're good at that as well. So I wanted to give you guys the floor. So we'll start with Draven. Do you have any, like, you know, forgotten or underrated gems that maybe like on Netflix, some that we can discover?
Well, I kind of talked about them. I talked about them like Super Dark Times and like The Wall and Radius. You know, check those out. Also, there's Mayhem by Glenn from The Walking Dead. That's a pretty good movie.
Right.
It's pretty much he's stuck in a skyscraper, and then all these people can start fucking going crazy, and he has to kind of work his way down. And that was a pretty fun movie. That's pretty much all that I could think of. You know, Jungle was pretty good too with the Harry Potter kid. That was another pretty good film. Pretty much he goes to it's like a survivalist film, but it's pretty intense. And that's pretty much it.
Adolfo, do you have any?
I talked about a couple of them. Like I said, Lucky was good. Raw, the cannibal movie, was good. Ghost Story. Oh, one I didn't mention. That Netflix original movie Oakja. I thought that was pretty entertaining. It's really heavy-handed on the vegetarianism, and it didn't work. I'm still eating meat, but but as a film, it's a very entertaining movie. You know what? There's a little documentary. It's not a great movie, like as far as documentary goes, but it's a good story. It's called Batman and Bill, and it's about for those who don't know, like Bob Kane, who for decades people thought was the original creator of Batman, and basically he's just a fucking like scam artist who just put his name on shit that someone named Bill Finger actually created. So everything that you know about Batman, like the from the outfit to the Batmobile to the Joker, Catwoman, the Commissioner Gordon, the Bat Signal, everything fucking associated with Batman was created by this guy Bill Finger, and he never got any credit for decades. And this film is basically about like this one dude's mission to get this guy's name to be recognized officially by DC Comics and Warner Brothers as a co-creator of Batman. And it has a happy ending, like where at the very end of the film they find like he finally gets an on-screen credit on Batman v Superman, where like you see Batman created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger. So and up until that point, it always just said Bob Kane. And Bob Kane, if you look it up, just a garbage human being. He's a douchebag. All he ever came up with was the name. This Bill Finger guy came up with everything else. And this documentary just basically this guy's journey. He isn't even like a family member. He's just a guy who knew the story and then went out to try and get like the credit this guy deserves. So it's not as far as like a film, it's not a great documentary, but it's a good story and it's engaging. So that's the other one I would say.
Last Flag Flying is also one that nobody really talked about, which is Richard Linklater's latest film, and it was also a very good film, very sad film, where he kind of tackles like, you know, older, like Steve Carell, Bryan Cranston, Larry Fishburne, and they're Vietnam War veterans, and it's the typical Richard Linklater where it's just, you know, a day in the life of those three guys who kind of saw life pass them by. It's a very good movie.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely one I forgot too, because it's like I went in with so much hype for that, and then it's like, I mean, it was good, but then like people forgot about it. Like it was never even talked about again. So,
so you saw it?
I did see it.
Oh, okay, good.
But that's the thing. Like I forgot that I saw it. You know,
yeah.
So it's just one of those movies. But I mean, that's pretty much that's our show, and that's 2017. You know, so we have the Oscars coming up next week, so we'll see what happens with that, who gets to take home the statuettes that night. But we're pretty much done here. So I'll wrap up Force Perspective episode 103. Any questions, comments, feedback, send an email to fpmpodcast@gmail.com. Draven, you can get in any plugs that you have right now, because I know Fabulous, like you said in the beginning, is on hiatus, but if you want to plug anything else, the floor is yours right now.
Not right now. Just go to if you like wrestling, go join the KLB Facebook page, which is KLB, K Fabulous Lucha Brothers. We're gonna open up a group section. That way people could, because we get people telling us that they want to be more involved, and if you open up a group, they could post there and everybody would see it. So it kind of creates more of a community, so that's what we're gonna do very soon, and that's pretty much it. Well, we'll come back when we come back.
Awesome, man. Adolfo, plugs.
EssentialFilmsPodcast.com. The Essential Films on Facebook, at Essential Films on Twitter, and then on my new Facebook page, or not Facebook, on my new YouTube channel, which we're posting Forced Perspective episodes on, YouTube.com/Adolfo J Acosta, and that's my stuff.
Yeah. And you can follow me on Twitter at SportsGuy515. You can follow the show on Twitter at FP Movie Podcast, and we're also on Facebook. Just look for the Facebook page in the search. Just type in Force Perspective Movie Podcast, and it'll come up on your search results there. That's pretty much it. Does anybody have any final words before we get out of here?
That's it. We'll see you at the movies, and we'll see how 2018 treats us. I already on another podcast called The Horror Returns. I cut a 10-minute promo on how horrible fucking Insidious 4 was. So go check out the Horror Returns podcast.
I just talked to D about that because I know he saw it, and I think he gave me like a one-liner, like it was okay, but I mean he's a mark for that franchise. That's why I figured
that's a horrible fucking film. That's all I gotta say about that. I don't have it in me to repeat what I said. It's just a horrible. Everything about it is horrible.
Right.
That's my number one worst movie of 2018. I'm almost
You're
positive.
calling it now, bro.
I'm almost positive nothing's gonna top it. That's how bad it was. But anyway, that's pretty much it.
So real quick, also, so like I said, next week is the Oscars, and next week is also my 24-hour marathon. So what we're planning to do right now. So here's my pickle right now. So what we're planning to do is as soon as I come home from the marathon, which is going to be that Sunday morning, before I even go to sleep. Possibly, Adolfo and I are going to do a quick, maybe 30-minute episode. That'll be episode 104, where I just talk about the experience at the marathon. Anything, maybe different opinions emerging from the second viewings or third viewings of a lot of these Best Picture nominees. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be half asleep while we're recording, so that's going to be wacky. So we'll definitely check that out. And then the following week after that, we're going to actually do a full Oscars recap with the winners, our thoughts on the whole show as a whole, and all that good stuff. Before we get to the more recent stuff like Black Panther, Annihilation, which I saw, which I really liked, and all that good stuff from 2018. So, Adolfo, anything else, or are we good?
I'm good, Ben.
All right, man. So on behalf of Draven and Adolfo from SportsGuy515, thank you again for joining us. And until next time, we are out of here.